The Studiolo of Francesco I is a sort of precious casket designed to contain small objects from the prince's collection. It was Vasari's final intervention in Palazzo Vecchio and was completed between 1570 and 1575 with the assistance of over 30 artists. They included painters such as Stradano, Naldini, Alessandro Allori, Bronzino's pupil, and Vasari himself. Among the sculptors were Bartolomeo Amanati, Giambologna, and Vincenzo de Rossi. The complex decorative program, which makes this one of the most fascinating rooms of 16th century Italy, was devised mainly by the humanist Don Vincenzo Borghini. However, the Studiolo, like all the other decoration in Palazzo Vecchio, is the result of a dialectic among many individuals, including the Grand Duke himself. Just as in the Salone dei Cinquecento the role of Cosimo I was not merely that of patron, so in this case Francesco I infused his own personality into the Studiolo. Today we enter the Studiolo through a door in the Salone dei Cinquecento, but originally it could be reached only from the Duke's bedchamber. From the immense Salone, which can contain a vast concourse of people, and where a single person soon feels lost, where sculptures and frescoes of monumental dimensions introduce the spectator to great public events, we pass without warning into the tiny space of the Studiolo, intended to receive only one person at a time. The comparison with the Salone was from the beginning one of separation, even of opposition. To the political and public world of Cosimo, it opposed the private world of Francesco. However, if we consider well, the horizon represented by the little casket of the Studiolo is in reality much vaster than the Florence and the Tuscany illustrated in the Salone. It is all of nature, with her mysterious forces reaching even to human technology. The relationship between man and nature is illustrated in the panel in the centre of the ceiling, where Prometheus, the
first inventor of precious stones and gems,
is shown being offered a quartziferous stone by nature, who is surrounded by various species of animal. From this central image, over the barrel vault there spreads out a mass of allegories and figures, completed by the paintings on slate that cover the four walls and by the paintings on the doors of the cupboards, where the theme of nature and art continues. These are paintings which mingle fantasy and fable, together with realistic and even technical and naturalistic elements, and it is pleasant to linger over them, even without troubling to reflect on their elaborate allegorical content. Most striking among them are the scenes devoted to human activities, especially close to the interests of the Grand Duke, who is portrayed in several scenes in a secondary role, in contrast to the representations of his father, who is always shown in his official capacity. These scenes form a little gallery of everyday portraits of Francesco and his entourage, visiting a mine, gathering precious stones and metals, taking part in the banquet of Cleopatra, in the glassblower's factory, and finally in the alchemist's workshop, where Giovanni Stradano shows Francesco intent on alchemical experiments, the central passion of his life. Even when he is not directly portrayed, Francesco is always present indirectly through his personal interests. Thus, the scene in the goldsmith's workshop, in an architectural setting that recalls the Uffizi, shows various phases in an art which was one of the Grand Duke's greatest passions. The picture illustrating the invention of gunpowder alludes to Francesco's enthusiasm for ballistic experiments, which led to the creation of a delayed action bomb. The scene in the wool mill shows an activity which was of the greatest importance for the Medici family fortunes, and the bronze foundry represents one of the most admired activities in the Florence of the time. Weapons were manufactured there, but also the masterpieces of bronze sculpture, which in the Studiolo stand in 8 marble niches. To complete the whole cycle, and to emphasize its private character, the portraits of Francesco's parents, Cosimo and Eleonora, face each other inside roundels. A few years after the completion of the Studiolo, Francesco himself began transferring the bronze statues and the contents of the cupboards to the tribune in the Uffizi, finished in 1584. The dismantling of the Studiolo was probably completed by Ferdinando I in the cultural climate of the Counter-Reformation, when the kind of experimentation that had taken place there began to incur the suspicion of heresy. In 1910, the interior furnishings were completely reconstructed on the basis of letters sent by Don Vincenzo Borghini to Vasari, and all the paintings and sculptures were replaced as we see them today.